I want to start with something honest, a confession, maybe even an admission. I spend an unreasonable amount of time worrying that I'm behind in life. Financially, I feel like I haven't reached my potential, that I've wasted years. And the worst part, I know it's ridiculous. On paper, I've done fine, but the feeling doesn't go away. It follows me everywhere, like I'm climbing this huge mountain called life, hanging on for dear grip, while others glide right past me to the summit. I'm sick of feeling like this, so I went searching for answers, and what I found changed how I look at money, success, and myself. The truth is, many of us feel this way, like no matter how hard we try, we're always a few steps behind. But what does doing well financially really mean? Is it about having more money than others, or something else entirely? Today, I'll share what I discovered, not just data, but perspective, because maybe you feel this too. To understand where this constant comparison comes from, I want to tell you a story. Have you ever seen the documentary The Dawn Wall? It's about a legendary climber, Tommy Caldwell, who decided to scale one of the toughest rock faces on Earth, El Capitan's Dawn Wall. But he wasn't alone. Climbing beside him was Kevin Georgeson. And while Tommy's name is the one Google remembers, Kevin's isn't. He's practically invisible online, despite being an extraordinary climber himself. That imbalance, the world celebrating only the very best and forgetting everyone else, mirrors how we often see ourselves. We live in a world obsessed with the exceptional. The number one gets the glory, while everyone else is left feeling average. It's like Kevin, incredible in his own right, but next to Tommy he seems ordinary. The hardest part of their climb was a section called Pitch 15, a stretch so difficult many thought it was impossible. Tommy managed to conquer it. Kevin couldn't. Over and over again he fell. At one point Tommy had to decide, move ahead alone or wait for his struggling partner. We'll come back to how that ended. But that moment captures something deeper. That gnawing feeling of falling behind while others succeed. It's a feeling that's easy to relate to when you look around today. Every time you scroll your phone, it seems like everyone's younger, richer, and doing better. But let's pause and ask, what does average really look like? The global median income today is around $9,700 a year. Nearly 2/5 of the world live on less than $6 a day. In the UK, the average annual income is about £27,700. Yet when people earning £80,000 to £100,000 were surveyed, 60% of them said their income felt average. How can that be? It's because comparison is relative. I once met a man at a party who arrived in a powder blue Bentley, the kind of car that makes heads turn. He looked like he had everything. Later that night he told me he felt insecure, like he was the poorest millionaire in the room. That stuck with me, because that's exactly how comparison works. No matter what you earn, there's always someone earning more. A study called Is More Always Better explored this idea. It found that people feel dissatisfied if they earn less than their peers, even if they're doing fine objectively. Someone making £40,000 feels unhappy if their friends make £50,000, but they'd feel content if their friends made £30,000. In other words, your satisfaction depends not on your number, but on who you're standing next to. We used to compare ourselves only to our neighbours or colleagues. Now, thanks to social media, we compare ourselves to everyone, the richest, most successful, most exceptional people in the world. And no matter how well you're doing, you'll always find someone doing better. If we switch back to our mountain analogy, most of the world is still far below you. You're already halfway up. But because you're staring at the few climbers at the very top, you feel small. Comparing yourself to billionaires is like comparing your own reflection to a photoshopped celebrity, pointless and damaging. So let's look at another part of the picture, savings. You might think everyone's saving big chunks of their income, but the truth is far from that. In the UK, 15% of people have zero savings. 1 in 3 have less than £1,500. Around 40% couldn't last even a month without income. Even high earners aren't immune. Nearly half of Americans making over $100,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. If you save even 5% of your income, you're already doing better than most. The global average savings rate is about that. The truth is, many people can't save and many others won't. Either way, saving something, anything, puts you ahead of the curve. Now, what about spending? The average UK household spends about £2,900 a month, which works out to roughly £35,000 a year. But the average disposable income is only around £31,400. That gap explains why debt levels are rising. 1/5 of UK households are predicted to be living in poverty within a year. But here's a line that stopped me cold. The opposite of poverty isn't wealth, it's enough. If you can pay your bills on time without relying on debt, you're already doing better than millions. Yet it never feels like enough, does it? That's because we're not just competing for survival anymore, we're competing for status. Comparison has turned into a never-ending race with no finish line. Psychologists call it the N effect. The idea that as the number of people we compare ourselves to increases, our motivation and satisfaction decrease. When you compete against 2 people, you try hard. When you compete against the entire world, you just feel tired and small. That's why financial comparison is so toxic. There's no clear opponent, no clear end. Even if you buy the fancy car or hit $1 million in savings, there's always someone ahead. The only way to break the cycle is to stop chasing extrinsic goals, those driven by outside validation, and focus on intrinsic ones, built around what actually matters to you. And that brings us back to our climbers. After days of failure, Kevin was ready to give up, but Tommy refused to leave him behind. He told Kevin, "This isn't a competition. I don't care how long it takes, we're finishing this together." He even threw his phone off the mountain to block out the noise of the world. Once the pressure was gone, Kevin finally succeeded on his very next try. Maybe that's the real lesson here. When we stop measuring ourselves against everyone else and focus on our own climb, our own definition of enough, that's when we finally start moving forward. Because in the end, we're not racing anyone but ourselves.